YHVH or Ezekiel, chapters 46 through 48. Thus said the Master Yehovah, the gate of the inner courtyard facing the east is shut 6 days of work, but on the Sabbath it's opened, and on the day of the new moon it is opened. And the prince shall enter by way of the porch of that gate from the outside, and he shall stand by the post. And the priests shall prepare his ascending offering and his peace offerings. And he shall bow himself at the threshold of the gate and shall go out. But the gate is not shut until evening. And the people of the land shall also bow themselves at the entrance to this gate before Yehovah on the Sabbaths and on the new moons. And the ascending offering, which the prince brings to Yehovah on the Sabbath day, is 6 lambs, perfect ones, and a ram, a perfect one. And the grain offering is 1 ephah for a ram, and the grain offering for the lambs, a gift of his hand, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And on the day of the new moon, a young bull, a perfect one, 6 lambs and a ram, they should be perfect. And he prepares a grain offering of an ephah for a bull and an ephah for a ram, and for the lambs as his hand attains, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And when the prince enters, he comes in by way of the porch of that gate and goes out by the same way. And when the people of the land enter before Yehovah at the appointed times, whoever shall enter by way of the north gate to bow himself goes out by way of the south gate. And who enters by way of the south gate goes out by way of the north gate. He shall not return by the way of the gate through which he came, but goes out through the opposite one. And the prince is to be in their midst, entering when they enter and going out when they go out. And in the festivals and in the appointed times, the grain offering is an ephah for a bull and an ephah for a ram, and for the lambs, the gift of his hand, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And when the prince makes a spontaneous ascending offering or spontaneous peace offerings to Yehovah, the gate facing east shall be opened for him, and he shall prepare his ascending offering and his peace offerings as he did on the Sabbath day. And he shall go out, and after he goes out, the gate shall be shut. And make a daily ascending offering to Yehovah of a lamb a year old, a perfect one, preparing it morning by morning. And prepare a grain offering with it, morning by morning, 1/6 of an ephah, and 1/3 of a hin of oil to moisten the fine flour, a grain offering to Yehovah, continual, everlasting laws. And prepare the lamb and the grain offering and the oil morning by morning, a continual ascending offering. Thus said the Master Yehovah, when the prince gives a gift of some of his inheritance to any of his sons, it belongs to his sons. It is their possession by inheritance. And when he gives a gift of some of his inheritance to one of his servants, then it shall be his until the year of release. Then it shall return to the prince. Only the inheritance of his sons is theirs. And the prince does not take any of the people's inheritance by evicting them from their possession. He is to give his sons their inheritance from his own possession, so that none of my people are separated from his possession. And he brought me through the entrance, which was at the side of the gate, into the set-apart rooms of the priests facing north. And look, there was a place at the extreme rear toward the west. And he said to me, this is the place where the priests cook the guilt offering and the sin offering, where they bake the grain offering, so as not to bring them out into the outer courtyard to set the people apart. And he brought me out into the outer courtyard and made me pass along to the 4 corners of the courtyard. And look, in every corner of the courtyard was another courtyard. In the four corners of the courtyard were courtyards covered over, 40 cubits long and 30 wide, and these four corners having one measure, and a row of building stones all around them, all around the four of them, and places for fire were made under the rows all around. And he said to me, These are the kitchens where the attendants of the house cook the slaughterings of the people. Chapter 47. And he turned me back to the door of the house, and look, water was flowing from under the threshold of the house toward the east, for the house faced east, and the water was flowing from under the right side of the house, from the south of the slaughter place. And he led me out by way of the north gate, and took me round on the outside to the outer gate, facing east, and look, water trickling out on the right side. As the man went out to the east with the line in his hand, he measured 1,000 cubits, and he made me pass over into water, water to the ankles. And he measured 1,000, and made me pass over into the water, water to the knees. And he measured 1,000, and made me pass over water to the loins, and he measured 1,000, a stream that I was unable to pass over, for the water had risen, water to swim, a stream that is not passed over. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? And he led me and brought me back to the bank of the stream. When I returned, then look, along the bank of the stream were very many trees on one side and the other. And he said to me, These waters are flowing toward the eastern country, and go down to the Arabah, and enter the sea, being made to flow into the sea, and the water shall be healed. And it shall be that every swarming creature, wherever the stream goes, shall live. And there shall be very many fish, for these waters shall go there, and they are healed. And wherever the stream flows, all shall live. And it shall be that fishermen stand along it, from En-gedi to En-Egelim, being places for spreading their nets. Their fish is to be of the same kind as the fish of the great sea, very many. Its swamps and marshes shall not be healed, they shall be given over to salt. And by the bank of the stream on both sides grow all kinds of trees used for food, whose leaves do not wither and fruit do not fail. They bear fruit every new moon, because their water flows from the set-apart place. And their fruit shall be for food, and their leaves for healing. Thus said the Master Yehovah, This is the border by which you inherit the land according to the 12 tribes of Israel, 2 portions for Joseph. And you shall inherit it, each one the same as his brother. For I lifted my hand in an oath to give it to your fathers, and this land shall fall to you as your inheritance. And this is the border of the land on the north, from the great sea, the way of Hethlon, as one goes to Tzadad, Hamath, Berothah, Sibrayim, which is between the border of Damasek and the border of Hamath, Hatzar Hadakon, which is on the border of Havran. And the border shall be from the sea to Hatzar Anan, the border of Damasek. And on the north, toward the north, is the border of Hamath. This is the north side. And the east side is from between Havran and Damasek and Gilad and the land of Israel, the Yarden, from the border to the eastern side of the sea you are to measure. This is the east side. And the south side toward the south is from Tamar to the waters of Meribah by Kadesh, along the Wadi to the great sea. This is the south side toward the south. And the west side is the great sea, from the border to the point opposite Hamath. This is the west side. And you shall divide this land among yourselves, according to the tribes of Israel, and it shall be that you divide it by lot as an inheritance for yourselves, and for the sojourners who sojourn in your midst, and who bear children among you. And they shall be to you as native born among the children of Israel. With you, they have an inheritance in the midst of the tribes of Israel. And it shall be that in whatever tribe the sojourner sojourns, and there you give him his inheritance, declares the Master Yehovah. Chapter 48. And these are the names of the tribes, from the north end along the way to Hethlon at the entrance of Hamath, to Hatzar-Enan, the border of Damasek, northward by the side of Hamath, from its east to its west side. Dan. 1. And by the border of Dan, from the east side to the west. Asher. 1. And by the border of Asher, from the east side to the west. Naphtali. 1. And by the border of Naphtali, from the east side to the west. Manasseh. 1. And by the border of Manasseh, from the east side to the west. Ephraim. 1. And by the border of Ephraim, from the east side to the west. Reuben. 1. And by the border of Reuben, from the east side to the west. Yehudah. 1. And the border of Yehudah, from the east side to the west, is the contribution which you offer up. 25,000 cubits in width, and in length, the same as one of the portions, from the east side to the west, with a set-apart place in its midst. The contribution that you offer up to Yehovah is 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width, and of these is the set-apart contribution for the priests. On the north, 25,000 cubits, and on the west, 10,000 in width, and on the east, 10,000 in width, and on the south, 25,000 in length. And the set-apart place of Yehovah shall be in its midst. For the priests of the sons of Tzadok, who are set apart, who did guard my charge, who did not go astray when the children of Israel went astray, as the Levites went astray. So this contribution shall be to them from the contribution of the land, a most set-apart place by the border of the Levites. And along the border of the priests, the Levites have 25,000 cubits in length and 10,000 in width. Its entire length is 25,000, and its width 10,000. And they do not sell any of it, nor exchange it, nor transfer this best part of the land, for it's set apart to Yehovah. And the 5,000 cubits in width that's left, facing the 25,000, is for common use by the city, for dwellings and open land, and the city shall be in its midst. And these are its measurements. The north side, 4,500 cubits, and the south side, 4,500, and the east side, 4,500, and the west side, 4,500. And the open land of the city shall be to the north 250 cubits, and to the south 250, and to the east 250, and to the west 250. And the rest of the length alongside the contribution of the set-apart portion is 10,000 cubits to the east and 10,000 to the west. And it shall be alongside the contribution of the set-apart portion, and its increase shall be food for the workers of the city. And the workers of the city from all the tribes of Israel shall till it. The entire contribution is 25,000 cubits by 25,000 cubits foursquare. You are to offer up the set-apart contribution with the possession of the city. And the rest is for the prince on one side and on the other of the set-apart contribution and of the possession of the city, facing the 25,000 cubits of the set-apart contribution as far as the eastern border, and westward facing 25,000 as far as the western border, alongside the portions of the prince. And the set-apart contribution and the set-apart place of the house shall be in its midst. So, the possession of the Levites and the possession of the city are in the midst of what belongs to the prince. Between the border of Yehudah and the border of Benjamin, it belongs to the prince. As for the rest of the tribes, from the east side to the west side, Benjamin 1. And by the border of Benjamin, from the east side to the west side, Shimon 1. And by the border of Shimon, from the east side to the west side, Issachar 1. And by the border of Issachar, from the east side to the west side, Zebulun 1. And by the border of Zebulun, from the east side to the west side, Gad 1. And by the border of Gad on the south side, toward the south, the border shall be from Tamar to the waters of the Meribah by Kadesh, along the Wadi to the great sea. This is the land which you divide by lot as an inheritance among the tribes of Israel, and these are their portions, declares the Master Yehovah. And these are the exits of the city, the gates of the city, according to the names of the tribes of Israel, on the north side measuring 4,500 cubits, the 3 gates northward, 1 gate for Reuben, 1 gate for Yehudah, 1 gate for Levi. And on the east side, 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 gate for Joseph, 1 gate for Benjamin, 1 gate for Dan. And on the south side, measuring 4,500 cubits, 3 gates, 1 for Shimon, 1 gate for Issachar, and 1 gate for Zebulun. And on the west side, 4,500 cubits, with their 3 gates, 1 gate for Gad, 1 gate for Asher, 1 gate for Naphtali. All around, 18,000 cubits. And the name of that city from that day is Yehovah is there.